Salem's Lot.
Do you believe a thing can be inherently evil?
Did anyone else know that Salem's Lot has 3 adaptations?
No way.
Well, did you also know that there is a sequel to the short story that originally had no sequel, and on top of that, that there was a TV show prequel?
I mean, why?
Good question. Apparently, the short story is one of Stephen King's best. Here's the problem.
I can't read.
So, many of you already know, there was a Salem's Lot that was released just this year. In order to prepare for this video, I watched the other 2 miniseries. A grand total of 8 hours of Salem's Lot were dedicated to making this vid.
Admirable. But foolish!
Let's get spooky with spoilers as I break down the pros, cons, and the differences between all of these adaptations and find out which one is best. Let's start with the first Salem's Lot adaptation that came out in 1979.
Look at me.
This Salem's Lot focuses on an author coming into an old town that he grew up in. He wants to write a story about the Marsden house, the old haunted house of the town that sits on a big hill that looks down on everybody. The house scares him as it does everybody else. While he is there, a few foreigners come into town and open a kind of curiosity antique store and live at the Marsden house. The author Ben Mears meets a pretty girl that is just reading one of his books on the grass one day, and he approaches her and asks her out. Her dad is the local doctor. I'll explain later why I even mentioned that. While the foreigners, Straker and Barlow, get situated in the town, one of the local kids goes missing. The town searches for him, but they come up with nothing. We see some creepy scenes of the young boy floating outside his older brother's room, and it's probably the creepiest aspect of the whole movie. One by one, everyone in the town becomes infected. So, some notable characters of the movie are a real estate agent, his secretary that he's having an affair with, her drunk fat husband, a gravedigger, a priest, a teacher that the author used to have as a kid. Oh, and a kid who is smart, loves the occult, and is able to keep evil at a distance. By the time we are close to the end of the movie, near everyone in the town is infected with vampirism. The sheriff has booked it, and our author and the kid are the only ones left to fight. They go to the Marsden house and face off with Straker, who is Barlow's familiar. One of the key things that stand out in this one is that Straker is actually super strong. He kills the doctor of the town by simply lifting him up and slamming him against a wall full of antlers. Our author has to put 6 bullets in him to kill him. The author and the kid find Barlow's coffin and stake him with relative ease.
What? Oh, come on!
If that's how the big bad gets got in the short story, fucking shoot me. Hey, it's just a figure of speech. The author sets the Marsden house on fire because it's filled with vamps. He thinks his love interest is inside, but he couldn't even confirm it before burning the place down, and him and the kid book it and are now permanently on the run from vamps. We jump ahead in time and the love interest surprises the author with love for eternity, and he stakes her, and the movie ends with them being on the move again. Okay, so the pros and cons of the miniseries are as follows. Pros. Being the first of the adaptations, plenty of people have lots of nostalgia for the charm and the feel and the style of this one. And here's my response.
Unacceptable!
Yeah, this ain't getting any kind of cred on my tiny ass channel. The pros of this movie are few. It has some pretty likable characters played by competent actors. Barlow's look was pretty cool, going with the Nosferatu look. Our main author is a very likable guy who helps out as much as he can when things start to go to shit around the town. He expresses a lot of emotion because he is struggling with a lot about how he feels about the Marsden house and of course killing his love interest at the end. This movie's Straker is probably the most effective familiar. He's friendly, polite, knows how to talk to cops, and he doesn't cause any real suspicion other than he's the newbie in town. Cons. There are several shots when it comes to the about to die scenes where the frame either freezes and then cuts to the next scene, or a character keeps their expression for a really long time and then they get got. Scenes like this have never aged well, in my opinion. Some key aspects of the movie that stand out of this one is is already the author having a personal connection to the Marsden house, the affair between the real estate guy and his secretary, the love interest between the daughter of the town doctor. The love interest is pretty aggressive and definitely goes after the author more than he goes after her. The priest doesn't really have a significant role in this one. The teacher doesn't have a super significant role either. Crosses only work if you believe that they work. Straker has super strength. It has a sad ending with the author and the kid on the run from vampires constantly. They burn down the Marsden house before they leave, and I think that's it. Don't worry, I'll be doing the same for the other two adaptations. Salem's Lot, 2004. This Salem's Lot may be the most different of the three because it starts out at the aftermath and then jumps to the beginning like any other cheap attempt at catching your attention. It starts with our author character attacking a priest at a soup kitchen, and then the attack ends with both of them in the hospital. A good Christian nurse asks why he shouldn't let the author die because of what he did. Our author responds, "Salem's Lot." And then we jump back to the beginning of it all going down. Another standout aspect is our author character narrating several aspects of Salem's Lot to introduce us to what's really going on. Kind of like Bilbo talking about the Shire, only super depressing like. So our author goes to good old Salem's Lot to write a book about the Marsden house, which as a child he was dared to go into, and when he did, he witnessed a few murders, and that traumatized him so bad that he felt like he had to come back and write about it. He later changes his story like 3 times. The real story he is writing about are the lies that he told about the event, and it'll be very therapeutic for him to get the truth out and how it connects to the whole town. He tries to rent out the Marsden house, but the real estate guy got a better offer from Straker and Barlow, so he gave them the house. Well, actually, he bought the house and invited Straker and Barlow into the entire town. In exchange, he gets a bunch of valuable land in some other state. That's a pretty significant difference in this one. Most everything happens the same as the other two, with some new characters added in to add a bit more emotion into the whole story. Barlow is the most present here, directly approaching people and preying on their insecurities and offering them a better life. He is able to do this because Barlow looks like a normal guy here, except for a sometimes very long, ugly looking soul patch. The 2004 version is just like the original, a mini-series. So the story cuts in half, and for some reason, whoever uploaded this onto Amazon Prime kept the credits in, so you see them on screen after the first half ends, and then we start with the narration again, and we're in the hospital, and our guy is talking to the nurse saying, "Wait, there's more." Most everything, like I said before, happens the same, with a few twists and turns, and it ends with Barlow getting staked in his coffin, again without a fight.
Making him yet another stupid bitch!
Yeah, apparently he is stupid vulnerable during the day. He's talking to the author and the kid while staying in his coffin, unable to move because the sun is still up. He gets staked and turns into dust, and since he was in a newly built home, the author and the kid go back to the Marsden house, burn it, along with a few other homes on their way out of town. It ends with the priest screaming, "Damn you, Ben Mears!" Or Myers, I don't even remember, while surrounded by vamps. Though, they aren't touching him because he has become the new familiar. We jump back to the present, and the nurse who was hearing the story freaks out and runs to go check on the priest who was smothered in his sleep. The kid got to him, and then he visits the author saying it's all over, he can rest now, and the author finally lets himself die.
What? Oh, come on!
This makes no fucking sense. We saw a lot of vamps survive at the end of the Salem's Lot part of the story. What happened to those? We know they kept on existing even though Barlow was killed, so like, did the author and kid go on a killing spree that we just don't see because the directors, writers thought we wouldn't want to see such awesome violence?
Oh, don't give me that liberal bullshit!
Pros. This movie has some of the best emotional moments. There's a romance story between an old couple that is super sweet. There's a handicapped guy who is a personal favorite character of mine. There's a bus kill scene which is very cool. There's actually a few other standout scenes that really leave an impression. Barlow getting more screen time was actually pretty nice. Even though I like the monster look in the others, it's nice to see him doing the spreading in a more strategic manner here. Cons. This movie has the most CGI and it doesn't look very good. Some of the scenes get a pass because the idea looks cool, but some definitely don't. The cheesiness of the intro of both parts has not aged well and is basically just an in-your-face example of tell, don't show. That may be it. The things that stand out the most in this one is Barlow being a normal looking guy, the real estate guy having a hot daughter that is a completely new character, and him having the hots for her is icky. The handicapped character Dud Rogers that the real estate guy's daughter plays around with is also an original character. The innkeeper of the place the author stays at has a love interest side story that's unique to this version. The school bus character is completely original to this version. This version takes the affair of the 1979 version of the real estate guy and his secretary and changes it to the doctor and some dumb hot hick. The doctor getting killed by a booby trap buzzsaw was a sick and unique scene. This one may have the best and most shocking deaths. The other versions have the first boy be kidnapped and taken to Barlow as an offering. In this one, Straker drowns him in an ice-covered pond and then takes him to Barlow, which is pretty shocking. The teacher character is black. Hey, just pointing shit out here. He is also gay, and he's also killed by the priest in the hospital after Barlow turns him into his new familiar. This is the only Salem slot that has the main kid character not start out as super smart, mostly just a troublemaker who loves the occult. When the vamps die in this one, they turn into dust. In all three movies, the author has a love interest, but in this movie, it is the weakest. It's practically not even there for a majority of the runtime. This one had the highest vampire count, also the biggest town. You see way more people in general out of this one than all of the others. So this one probably gives off the feel of an entire town being taken over the best. This is the only one where the Marsden house is completely trashed. In the other adaptations, it's not in good shape or anything, but this one has like trash everywhere, like a combo of homeless and high schoolers have come and gone through this place whenever they saw fit. And of course, the whole movie being a story told to a nurse to distract him, so that the final connection to Salem's Lot is destroyed, is very unique to the film. Oh, and of course, the priest being turned into a familiar is also unique to the film. Salem's Lot 2024. In this Salem's Lot, we follow yet another author going into town. Shocking, I know.
That was sarcasm! I was being sarcastic, you fucking idiot!
While there, he is trying to write a book about his childhood. He grew up in the town till he was like 9, and then his parents got killed by a drunk driver, and then he moved away. He goes to the town trying to find a place to stay and goes to the real estate office. In this one, his love interest is the secretary of the real estate office. And she later comes onto him in a pretty aggressive way and invites him out to a drive-in movie theater. Most everything happens pretty similarly in this movie compared to the other movies, but there are some serious changes as well. But we will get to that soon enough. The main kid of this town is a sharp kid who loves the occult like in the 1979 version, but in this one, he is black. That's not a big difference because it doesn't really have any effect on his character, but in this adaptation, he is considered a new kid in town, and the two friends he meets are the first boys to get taken. One of them is Homelander's kid. Holy shit. But here he is looking super young, which just proves to us that this movie was filmed several years ago. I'm sure there are lots of reasons why its release got delayed, and honestly, I don't really give a shit. It's here now for us to watch and critique now. Everything else is, whatever. We eventually meet the priest who is an alcoholic like in the 2004 version, and he's got a bit more of a role compared to the 1979 version where he was barely in the movie. The boys go missing and the town is searching for them for a week. Right away, that's a big difference, an actual time jump. At the gravesite for one of the boys, the digger gets turned. He later stays at the teacher's house and he thinks the guy is acting super weird, so he goes and grabs the author who is already getting physical with the love interest, so they both go, and while the teacher is talking vamps, they weirdly go along with it pretty quickly. Hey, here's a question. If someone were to tell you that vampires were real, what would it take to convince you? Yeah, that would get me to believe real quick like. Much of the same happens in comparison with the 2004 version. We see the author and doctor character, who is a black woman. Hey, I'm just pointing it out, not saying anything else. They all get convinced when the mother of the missing boys turns right in front of them. They use a cross on her and it works because they believe. I have seen this before in other movies, and so far, there's only one time when I actually liked it.
Charlie, not the cross. Charlie, not the cross, Charlie.
One by one, people start to turn pretty quickly. Our main kid ain't fucking around, and him with the teacher go to Barlow directly. The teacher gets got, but the kid gets the jump on Straker and kills him. Oh shit! The author and the girl are running around. She gets to her place, and apparently her mom was already visited by Barlow, who promised her to be the next familiar. The girl gets bit, and the author tries to save her, but it's too late. Him, the kid, and the doctor make it to the church and wait out the night. The next morning, they notice all of the cars are gone, and they go to the drive-in and see all of the town cars there. In the trunks are the vamps. The sun is starting to set. They find the love interest's car. The author can't stake her, so the doctor is about to do it, but then she gets gunned down by the new familiar, the chick's mother. This is one of the few consistents in all of the movies. The doctor character gets killed, never turned. There's a huge cat and mouse scene where the love interest attacks the author and he stakes her. The vamps get out of their car because the sun is slowly setting. The kid knocks over the big screen of the drive-in, revealing more sun, and it burns all of the vamps to a crisp, and then he runs over the mom familiar. A bit over the top, but okay. They get Barlow's coffin out, and the sun sets just enough for him to burst out of there, and we finally get to see this big badass vampire move around a bit. But since there are only two characters left, he is distracted while trying to kill the kid, so the author stakes him through the back of the head, through the mouth, and then again in the chest. The movie ends with the kid and author driving off, all happy.
What? Oh, come on!
Okay, I'm gonna address that shit in a bit. So, pros. This movie has some pretty good scares going on. I really liked the teacher being taken scene. I liked how this movie did try something new with the drive-in, even though it was to the detriment of taking the focus away from the Marsden house. I liked how physical this one was. Lots of vamps getting staked in the middle of fights. Also, you get to see more vamps, like big groups of them. Cons. This movie has plenty.
No shit, Sherlock!
And weirdly, most of it is because the story is rushed. Which is a weird thing to say considering this movie is 2 hours long. I have heard that there is more that was taken out, so maybe there will be like this movie's Snyder Cut version that will come out eventually. Though I am very sure that just like with the Snyder Cut, it will be an improvement, but there will still be plenty of flaws with the flick. For starters, we don't really get to know the author very much. Yeah, he is going through some shit, but we don't really get much info on him because there is too much going on in a story like this. I feel like the only way you could actually improve on this adaptation and stick with the movie format is you gotta change a lot with the story. There is just too many characters and too many locations to get a good feel on all of them. The main kid character is super brave in this one, which wouldn't really be a problem, but I don't think he's a very good actor, so him being more brave than the adults doesn't bring him up, it brings them down. This movie's Straker has very little screen time and gets pwned super easy, which makes you wonder why they chose Euron fucking Greyjoy to play the role. In the previous movies, there were several little side stories that really flesh out that you aren't just getting to know a few people, you're getting to know an entire town, which for this kind of a story is the better move. Probably the biggest con of this flick is the ending. This movie has a happy ending. I don't know who the fuck thought this was a good idea. They killed all of the vampires and, oh, problem solved, kid. Let's just move on with our lives now. Give me a fucking break. The main differences or standouts of this movie are as follows. The author doesn't have a personal connection to the Marsden house. The Marsden house isn't in the movie very much. The movie ends with the big fights in the drive-in parking lot. The existence of the drive-in stands out. The main kid is black, but also he's the new kid in town. The main doctor is black and a woman, and she gets gunned down. Straker gets killed by the main kid. Barlow has a number 2 familiar position filled pretty easily, which is the love interest's mother. The priest has a bit more of a role than in the 1979 version, but not by much thanks to the short runtime. Vamps only being able to enter into spaces when invited saves the main kid because he is able to close out all of the windows and doors of his treehouse and wait out the night after his parents get killed. The doc gets bit and she saves herself with a shot which apparently saves her from changing. This is the only movie of the 3 that kills off the sheriff. He is the biggest douche, so it's really not that sad. Also, his death is played for laughs, and it doesn't really land very well. Oh, and the movie does have a cool intro with blood and I think a map. Anyway, it's a cool way to start the movie. So here we are. Which is the best Salem's Lot adaptation?
These are all terrible movies. Just throw one out!
Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this, but all of the Salem's Lot adaptations are like C-tier movies, series at best. I know the original has a lot of love, but I think there is a lot of nostalgia messing with people's memories there, cause it's really no classic in my mind. All of the adaptations have the same main characters and at the same time try to do their own thing. I have no idea which one is more faithful to the short story, but if you were to ask me which one is the most entertaining, it's the 2004 version.
Blasphemy!
I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of flack for it, but hey, I came here with a defense. The reason why I liked it the most is because it got me in the feels the most.
Pussy!
This version had the most side stories of the three, and I think it's these side stories that were some of the better parts of the movie. Dud Rogers, the physically handicapped man that lives in the dump, kinda simple, and works as a garbage man, made me damn near tear up when Barlow was talking to him. He is a ridiculously nice guy and just happened to be the victim in a daughter trying to piss off her pervy, overprotective dad situation. The real estate guy made the garbage guy, gravedigger, fire him from the only job he could probably ever get, and the cherry on top is that it was his best friend. Now this poor guy has nothing. He even confronted the girl about getting him his job back, and she admitted to him that she was just playing with him to get at her dad, but it wouldn't matter what she did. He is now permanently screwed.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
Shut up. This is the most heartfelt thing of all the adaptations. Fucking fight me about it. Another thing is the innkeeper and her marrying a guy that had been hopelessly in love with her for years, even while she was married. He never moved on from her, and he even waited some time after her husband died to make his move. It's a bit hard for her to move on, but she eventually does and wants to instantly marry him. He is turned at the time of their wedding, and she doesn't even care. She wants to live forever and married to that guy, and she welcomes the bite. Good lord, this is some heartfelt stuff. Also, the scene where the bus driver gets got on his own bus was a pretty sick idea that stands out between all of the adaptations. Also, there's a scene in the jail cell where the author is roomed right next to the jealous guy of the author's love interest. The other guy is turned and he breaks and molds his body to crawl through the little vent that connects their rooms to try to get to the author's room, but he has to still be let in. When we see him crawl through, it looks like bad CGI, but I really like the idea and the feel of the scene, so I'm giving it a pass and a recommendation. To sum it all up, none of these movies are really that great of flicks. The original is cheesy, old, has dated scenes and moments. The 2024 version is rushed, has the least side stories, the author has the least connection to the haunted house that is the centerpiece of all of the adaptations. The 2004 version has its dated moments and its other downsides, but the ups outweigh the best of the three. This was quite a long video. Thanks for watching if you're still here, and stay spooky. Thank you all for watching till the end. We're getting close to monetization. We just need my watch hours to go up. So please, feel free to give a like, a sub, and click to watch one of my other vids. It'll be spooky.